Lara Croft, you are my hero!
There wasn't much to complain about with Crystal Dynamics' 2013 release of Tomb Raider. Even on the aging Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3 hardware, the game was one of the best looking titles of the generation. Though compared to its PC release, you could definitely see the console versions had been held back significantly. When Square Enix announced that they would be making a definitive edition of Tomb Raider for the Xbox One and PS4, I have to admit, a little part of me was extremely skeptical. I mean, full price for a game with marginally better graphics? That's not exactly what I had in mind when I looked forward to 2014. Though, playing Tomb Raider's definitive edition, all that worry fades away. Number 1, Tomb Raider is a game that didn't have many faults in the single-player campaign to begin with. Playing through it again isn't exactly a chore. It's a cinematic experience that's beautiful on the Xbox One and PlayStation 4, and the enhancements that have been made to the game are almost entirely focused on the visual experience. A number of different upgrades have been made to the game which allow you to become immersed in this beautiful adventure, far more than was possible with previous iterations. It's hard not to be skeptical of these repackaged games. Over the years, some of them have been good, some of them have been bad, but because of the bad ones, it's easy to view this definitive edition of Tomb Raider with some cynicism. On one hand, there's really not much additional content to be found in this release. If you played the game when it came out last year, you're not in for a wholly different experience. Square Enix has packaged all of the available downloadable content that arrived with the game last year, but that's certainly not the star of the show, as almost all of it expands on exceptionally middling multiplayer content. On the other hand, the graphics will wow you if you've made the jump directly from the Xbox 360 or PlayStation 3. Not so much if you made a pit stop on PC, but even if you did, there's been some work put into the game that can't be found on the PC release. Crystal Dynamics has remodeled Lara Croft entirely. She has a more realistic look about her, complete with a more realistic modeling of her hair of all things. And for a game that was known for its beautiful vistas, weather, lush environments, and big cinematic sequences, these upgrades will be noticed right away, and they boost the overall experience through the entirety of the game's campaign. For those that didn't play Tomb Raider last year, this is a truly next-gen experience for the franchise. This reboot is a combination of beautiful set-piece moments, quick-time events, varied combat, and the traditional puzzles that Tomb Raider fans will find familiar. Tomb Raider is easiest to compare to a game like Uncharted for its approach in delivering a cinematic experience from start to finish. The real core of Tomb Raider gameplay is built around the combat system though. The variety of weapons and their power-ups and ways to use the environments make encounters play out in entirely different ways according to player decision. You can stealthily sneak up on enemies and dispatch them without anyone becoming the wiser, or you can take a more forward approach and come out guns blazing. This Tomb Raider takes the game's protagonist Lara Croft on an origin story of sorts. She starts out as a young woman who's shipwrecked on an island and quickly becomes a grizzled combat veteran. Though it's explored only briefly, Lara loses her vulnerability pretty quickly. It doesn't take long before you feel like you have the upper hand in nearly any encounter. Lara transitions from the hunted to the hunter pretty quickly, and your constantly growing list of weapons, ample ammunition caches, and regenerating health continually reinforce this transition. By and large, the single-player side of Tomb Raider is a game that shows off an incredible attention to detail in both the way the story is told and the way the player interacts and grows alongside of it. As well known as Lara is, Crystal Dynamics does a good job of making you feel the transition of the character. It doesn't hurt Tomb Raider's case that it's also an incredible looking game with some unforgettable sequences. This is especially true in the definitive edition. A dynamic camera makes for a heightened sense of danger, while also highlighting the beauty of an island when the story calls for it. Those who put presentation first will not be disappointed with Tomb Raider, but they also won't be making sacrifices in the gameplay, story, or length of the game either. It's a well-rounded experience that lasts upward of 12 to 15 hours depending on playstyle, but there's very little reason to return to the island once complete. If there is one glaring bad spot for the single-player side of Tomb Raider, it's that there's not enough side content. While you'll find plenty of secrets to uncover on the island, there's very little depth to any of it once you find it. There's no reward outside of the XP boost you receive for clearing a tomb, and the puzzles that are usually encountered are clever, but not overly complex. These side tombs usually consist of you traveling down a fairly linear path, solving a quick puzzle, and being on your way. It would have been nice to see more depth to these side excursions. With very little bearing on the actual storyline, this side content doesn't round out the experience as fully as it probably could have. Though as much as the single player side of Tomb Raider is a spot on hit in the gameplay department, it's not so good as to warrant a multiplayer mode built completely around it. Obviously, the intent is to keep the party going after finishing the story, but sometimes it's just not necessary. Tomb Raider is one of those cases where it's not. Taking control of a variety of characters from the single player portion of the game, Tomb Raider multiplayer opens the world up to a variety of modes to play. It's pretty standard stuff really. You've got your traditional deathmatch mode and then 3 other modes which are slight variations of what you'll find in just about every other multiplayer experience on the market today. As is also expected, there's a rather standard weapons and skill buff upgrade system which is tied directly to a familiar XP unlock system that is found in the single player side of the game. However, the XP from the single player doesn't carry over to the online side of things, which is a weird decision considering that it could have given even more reason to explore the single player world more thoroughly. Tomb Raider multiplayer is just a weird offering no matter what game mode you choose to play. This side of the game does benefit from the enhanced visuals that are found in the single player, but it definitely does not redeem it or make the actual gameplay any better as a result. It rewards the committed players far more than it does newcomers, so be prepared to face extremely powerful online adversaries who've already traipsed through the progression system and unlocked more powerful weapons than you. It does have some interesting levels and some cool features like setting traps for your opponents, but it ultimately just feels like another generic multiplayer. It's slow and sluggish with very little to hook you into making it a regular must-play title with friends. So are there no redeeming qualities whatsoever in multiplayer? Well, not exactly. This third-person shooter offering definitely has some great moments, and it does do some things well, but it's pretty easy to tell that multiplayer wasn't given the same amount of attention as single player. It strives to recreate some of the cinematic moments from the campaign, it just doesn't do it well enough to keep you interested. Tomb Raider multiplayer could be fun in small doses, but it's definitely not the kind of game that's going to make you want to commit days of your life to. Crystal Dynamics rarely makes a misstep in the single player side of things though. Tomb Raider is a fantastic solo adventure. Admittedly, I couldn't help but wish my first experience with Tomb Raider was the definitive one. The graphical upgrades are certainly welcome, but they don't erase the fact that many have already been here and done that. It's a nice showpiece for what these next-gen consoles are capable of in terms of graphics, but if you come into Tomb Raider, this definitive edition, thinking that it's anything more than a shinier port, you'll likely leave disappointed.